Thank you for joining me again. We live in one of the most diverse jurisdictions in the nation. So sadly, upon news of the war in the Middle East, many of our houses of worship and religious communities have reached out to us with concerns. While this conflict may be oceans away, many of our residents here are experiencing fear, loss, and anxiety. We're thinking of our diverse community, such as our Muslim, Jewish, Zoroastrian, Baha'i, and Christian neighbors who have loved ones abroad and fear experiencing hate here in the county. I want to thank MCPD for quickly addressing safety concerns in the community last weekend when combat actions began in Iran. MCPD has stepped up patrols around religious institutions in case this global conflict prompts domestic terror here. We have had no reports of any direct threats, but we're doing it out of an abundance of caution. Everyone deserves to feel safe. I want to acknowledge our Office of Community Partnerships and our Interfaith Liaison, Kate Chance, who connects our county government with local houses of worship. On Tuesday night, I attended the county-hosted Iftar in Rockville with Kate. The conflict was a major concern among the attendees, similar to discussions in synagogues and mosques around the county. There is a widespread fear of backlash from the conflict. It's undoubtedly a troubling time. Additionally, while there are no military installations in Montgomery County, we do have a significant active duty and military community, including many parents and family members of those serving. I'm sure they're concerned and, like the rest of us, caught by surprise by this sudden decision. We still haven't gotten any clear answers as to why the U.S. and Israel were compelled to act. We've heard everything from threat of nuclear weapons to insinuations of an imminent terrorist attack to the false idea that our president is doing this for the people of Iran. This failure to communicate to the public has basically resulted in everyone being uncertain about the future, which can lead to a high level of anxiety. It is important for anyone struggling with this stress to reach out for mental health support. And I'm also concerned about our kids and young adults and how they're interpreting what's unfolding here. These are difficult and tense moments that are hard to deal with. Our Crisis Center provides free services 24 hours a day, 365 days a year by phone or in person during normal business hours at 1301 Picard Drive in Rockville. The hotline is 240-777-4000. Chat options are also available by texting 301-738-2255, while our mobile crisis outreach teams are another way that we can help in a crisis. If you're feeling a sense of hopelessness or overwhelming anxiety, please reach out for help. Don't be afraid to contact a mental health professional. Telehealth options may allow you to seek help from home. Help is closer than you think. I appreciate the County Council proposing the ICE Out bill this week. This legislation aims to prevent privately owned immigrant detention facilities in Montgomery County by blocking the issuance of permits for facilities like this. I fully support efforts whose goals are to prevent or reduce the destructive actions of ICE in our community. The number of people in immigration detention reached a new high of more than 60,000 last summer, breaking a modern record set during the first Trump administration. That's up from 39,000 people when Trump came to office in January of 2025. This escalation will continue, with ICE's budget growing exponentially with the passage of a new budget. Immigration arrests require extensive resources, and now at least $75 billion has been carved out of the next 4 years. That's up from last year's spending of $11 billion. It means extensive recruiting efforts, and then more room will be needed for detainees. When the president claims that they're focused on the worst offenders, it's flat out untrue. Innocent lives are being ruined to meet federal quotas. I've heard people refer to undocumented people as felons, and that's also not true. It's a civil violation, not a felony. When they serve a warrant, it's a civil citation, not a felony. I commend groups like United States Conference of Catholic Bishops for speaking out about the detention facilities' conditions. Community and faith leaders are justly concerned about the humanitarian and moral implications of this ICE expansion. That is a profound message that they send to approximately 62 million Catholics who live in this nation. As a local government, we must advocate for methods that ensure community safety while respecting everyone's fundamental rights. We will not support policies driven by fear and hate, nor will we allow an immigration detention center in Montgomery County. So last week I highlighted some good news for NIH, National Institutes of Health, but now we're learning about new challenges from the Trump administration. To no one's surprise, I suppose, this is about being a sore loser. President Trump didn't get what he wanted in the budget that was passed, which restored funding to NIH, which that required a bipartisan majority, and which ended the longest federal shutdown in U.S. history. Now his administration is slow-walking the money that was approved by Congress for the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, and NASA. Traditionally, after a budget is signed into law, agencies have a 30-day window to spend a portion of their full annual funding. They receive full funding once the spending plan is approved by the White House Office of Management and Budget. For some agencies, the 30-day allowance has been denied. The number of new and repeated grants that NIH funded so far this year sits at just 30% of the total of a typical year. That is a considerable amount of money being stalled. I'm concerned about the scientific research that's in jeopardy that leads to cures for diseases or innovations that are discovered with these research funds. This is also bad for our local biotech companies that should be receiving support through these research grants. Committee leaders charged with developing government spending bills are outraged. They've demanded that OMB release the funds, but it's unclear when that will happen. This is the last thing needed after a 43-day shutdown paused grant application review and other agency work. It is beyond frustrating to see Trump and his allies thumb their noses at decisions made in the best interests of our country. Whether it's Congress, the courts, or the people of this nation showing resistance, they seem to continuously try to find a new way to avoid being told no. Let's hope these stall tactics end soon so our federal workforce and our contractors can get back into the labs and offices that drive breakthroughs and jumpstart innovation. I want to thank everyone who participated in our 3 community meetings this week about trash-related issues. We're currently at the crossroads in Montgomery County. For over 30 years, we've relied on an incinerator in Dickerson to burn nearly 600,000 tons of trash every year. But that facility is reaching the end of its useful life. We need a new direction. My goal is to set a plan for shutting down the incinerator and transition toward a zero-waste future. This means expanding recycling, starting county-wide food scrap composting, and looking into advanced waste processing technologies that can pull out even more recyclables and monetize their value before we landfill what's left. Your voice on this issue is important, and please make sure to fill out a survey about your trash use through our Aiming for Zero webpage. Your feedback is essential to helping us make the right decision for our community and our planet. And I want to thank you for being part of this conversation. I want to remind people that this is not simply a decision of do we build a new facility or keep going with the incinerator. Either way, whether we build a new facility that does a better job of recycling or whether we keep the incinerator, this incinerator has to be rebuilt. The cost of rebuilding this incinerator is also in the neighborhood of hundreds of millions of dollars. So it is not the choice between spending money or not spending money. Either way, we spend money. The question is, do we spend money in a way that's the most environmentally sound, or do we choose an alternative that is far less sound? Think about it, please. It was wonderful to see such a great turnout in Wheaton for our annual Department of Permitting Stakeholders Forum. The forum allows everyone to build a collaborative relationship centered around community safety and growth. Our permitting department is constantly improving customer service and making the permitting process more consistent, transparent, and predictable. Some of the strides we've made include fast-track service to help small businesses get permits processed, sometimes on the same day. New GIS maps and online dashboards to provide real-time transparency into permit status and property information. The new e-solar program, which is getting green energy onto residential rooftops faster than ever, is a major improvement we made this year. Cutting-edge technology like using drones for land development inspections to streamline our work is also helping. We've made a lot of progress, but we aren't finished yet. By working together, we're setting a new standard for excellence and innovation right here in the county. We want to hear from you. Your feedback is key to our continuous improvement. The department has embraced continuous improvement, so if something doesn't work well, let the department know. Visit montgomerycountymd.gov/DPS and help us transform DPS into a world-class permitting department. Coming on the heels of last week's tax increment financing announcement for the Viva White Oak project, we have more good news. The developer, MCB Real Estate, has named its first anchor tenant, Costco. This will be a brand new Costco and will become their third location in Montgomery County, joining locations in Wheaton and Gaithersburg. I'm a fan of Costco personally. I like how they treat their employees and customers. They're also a corporation with principles, something that is increasingly scarce. We welcome their newest store to our county, and I look forward to sharing new developments as the Viva White Oak project moves forward. This week, I visited Precious Moments Family Childcare in Rockville to read to children for Read Across America Week. This is something I've done for many years because of how important early education and reading are to developing children. When I was on WBAL radio last week, that's a Baltimore station, the host asked me about potential cuts by the General Assembly to the blueprint for Maryland's future, the 10-year education plan for the state. I said that early childhood education needs to be prioritized. There is simply no other aspect of the blueprint that would have as positive an impact on the success of young children as the wide implementation of early childhood education. If anything is a game changer, this is it. We've talked for years about students entering kindergarten at the level of a 3-year-old, not a 5-year-old, and what that means for reading and comprehension in the long term. Studies on vocabulary deficits show the long-term impact. If those children leave kindergarten before grade level, it puts them at disadvantage as they move forward through school. We would save money on later efforts to intervene by getting it right from the start. And it has a long-term cost benefit by reducing the need for interventions in the upper grades. Recent studies following elementary-age children shows that low socioeconomic status groups enter school with substantially smaller vocabularies, and that differences in word learning processes over the early grades help explain why these gaps in vocabulary and reading persist, despite our best efforts. Being able to read is vital to building a child's vocabulary and increasing their comprehension. Another study showed that school-age vocabulary and reading interventions improve targeted skills, especially when intensive and explicit, but they rarely erase the full SES-related gap established before or at school entry. When kids can't keep up because they're behind on reading, it makes it easier for them to give up and tune out. That's something that sticks with kids for as long as they're in school. I remember when I was a teacher early in my teaching career, and I did a read aloud with 4 students. It stunned me to see the wide disparity of reading levels and comprehension. None of it at grade level. Every kid was basically reading a completely different book and had no grasp of what was actually on the paper. They didn't see the words the way they were pronounced. They didn't understand what they were reading, and each kid was substituting different words for the words that they didn't understand. In essence, you had kids reading 4 different books. That does not work, particularly when none of the books was right. It didn't help that MCPS had decided that phonics was a bad thing, something that has recently been changed, fortunately. Not addressing reading challenges early is detrimental because of the long-term effects and the impacts on skill development and access to jobs ultimately. And speaking of jobs, access to early childhood education helps women re-enter the workforce, which is good for business and great for family incomes. And I only say women because that's the reality of American life today. The person who usually winds up giving up a job so that they can stay home with the children is usually the woman. Just wanted to be clear about that. The cost of childcare is a real barrier for middle-class families as well. Last September, the county announced a $10 million investment in early childhood education. Money's helped us launch 3 initiatives to get children into early education programs sooner. I hope we can all play a role in helping children be ready for kindergarten. I want to thank the Children's Opportunity Alliance for setting up this morning's event. They are one of the many essential partners in our community who help families in our area with not just daycare, but high-quality early childhood education. So that's it for now. Have a great weekend and enjoy the weather as it warms up. It may be a little wet, but I'll take a little wet and warmer weather over what we've had recently. Next week, I'll be focusing on my recommended operating budget for the next fiscal year. Take care.